Good evening, morning, afternoon, freaks and geeks. This is Cass, and it's time for another daily story. So I've got two up so far, and at this point, I've only got one view on my first one. So, alright. We are counting down to Halloween, and on Halloween, I figured I'd, upload a very creepy paranormal story that I have not told on my paranormal video. So, today's personal story, it's about, I don't know how to word it. It's like, weird events happening with, classmates that it makes you wonder what's going on. Alright, so, my first story, I was in second grade. I can't even remember the girl's name anymore, and if I did, I wouldn't say it on here. But we're sitting down, we're doing our homework, and suddenly this woman comes into the classroom, which I'm suspecting is her mother. She hurries over to the girl, talks to her, and it's kind of like a soothing talk. Like she even brushes her hair a little with her hand. And then she takes the girl by her hand and walks out of the classroom very, quickly. Like she was hurried, like she was in a rush. Mind you, when I was in second grade, this was before the whole system of, you have to call into the office, you have to sign out the child. Well, then you did have to sign out the child. But my point is, this was before all the security and all the preventions of, let's say, the wrong parent picking up the child. Later I overheard, I was walking down the hallway, and there was a little commotion going on in the office. The door was open. So, I stopped for a minute, and I was hearing, and I heard something about, a mother, and then something about taking something, not saying it was a person, but taking something out of the state. I did not want to get into it because, into their business, mainly because they'll tell me just go away. So I just continued on. And when I grew up, I kind of put two and two together. My suspicion is that either, well, in both scenarios, that was the kid's mother. Either the father and the mother were divorced and the mother did not have custody. So she just came into the class, took the child, and took her out of state. Or the more scary one is that her parents, or mother, are on the run from the law. And so they had to get out of state right away, so she came and grabbed her child. So I can't follow that up with anything. So, the second story, it was actually a little later. I was 10 or 11. I can't remember what grade. It might have been 5th grade. But I knew this kid who had grayed hair, like an old folks gray hair. We didn't really ask him for a while, but then my group of friends and I talked to him about it. And he told us that, before he was transferred to that school, his father, which he did not know was abusive, hold on, I said that wrong, alright. He didn't know his father was abusive until he walked into the kitchen and witnessed his father with a knife in his hand, striking at his mother. He stabbed her once, and then he came in to stop his father from attacking his mother, and his father slashed him. I can't remember exactly where. He's either like on his shoulder or closer to his like chest area, but he had a huge slash like scar there. His neighbor next door saw the commotion through her window and their kitchen window and called the police. Sadly, his mother did not survive, but they're able to stitch up his cut in time, so he survived. However, over time, his hair went gray. Now, I'm not sure the full story behind that, like how true that is, but he did say that he had adopted parents, which is why he switched schools. But after a while, he was pulled out of class by his adopted parents. I don't know what happened, like at that point, but later on the news, like that evening, or was it the next evening? I think it was that evening. They were talking about how this guy had escaped from prison, jail. I do not know the proper terming on that, but his father was sentenced to prison, I guess it is, for life. I'm pretty sure people will correct me in the comments. Let's see. I do plan on editing these videos later, so when I do, and if I find out the proper terming, I'll just edit it so that it looks like I'm actually knowing what I'm talking about. So, so anyway, later that evening, there was a news story about a guy that that escaped prison, jail, whatever, and was on the loose. And so there was like a manhunt going on, and they didn't have full details, but they also said that there was suspicion that he was going to go after his son. And they did say that he was convicted in the murdering of his wife and close murdering of his child. So I think the two stories are connected. Then again, the kid might have just been coming up with a huge story that happened to coincide with that evening's news. But again, I don't know. I'm actually willing to believe him because the news kind of backed up his story. Anyway. In middle school. This one's more of an interesting anecdote than anything. But in middle school, there was this girl that I used to go out with in elementary school. That lasted only half a year. But what happened was that she went a little insane. Not because of me not really breaking up with her, but she was just insane in her own right. But she was going around telling people that she was immortal, like from Highlander. And she was afraid that someone was going to come to school with a sword and cut her head off. Which I felt was silly because she was telling everybody she was immortal. Anyway, so one day I decided to shut her up. I took her to a group of people, like at lunch, and said, hey, she thinks she's immortal. They just laughed their asses off. And then I told them she's afraid that someone's going to come with a sword and cut her head off. They laughed even harder. And one of them's like, yeah, like anybody is gonna own a sword and bring it to school. How do you even get a sword? So we all had a good laugh about it, and I turned to her and I'm like, see, no one cares. No one's going to come to school with a sword. The next day she came to school with a knife. However, it was unrelated, and she was suspended for a whole month. But that was just a funny story that's somewhat related. So, that is all of my stories for today. So, that is all. Giraffery.